On October 11, 1892, in the MacDonaldtown, in the backyard of the house located at Burren Street 25, sewage pipes were being repaired. While digging the soil, a master named James came across a bundle of fabric emitting a very strong, unpleasant odor. He thought it might be a dead cat recently buried, so he buried it further away from the repair site. However, the next morning, 27 meters from the discovery, James came across another bundle of fabric. Unwrapping it, he horrifyingly realized that it was the body of a child. He suspected that the first bundle might also contain the remains of a baby, so he immediately called the police. Examination revealed that the first bundle did indeed contain the body of a child. It was a boy, aged 5 to 8 months. Due to severe decomposition, it was estimated that he had died at least 3 months ago. The cause of death could not be determined. In the second bundle of fabric was a newborn girl. Experts speculated that she might have been stillborn, and this happened 6 to 8 weeks ago. Suspicion immediately fell on the residents of the house, but it turned out they had recently moved. Previously, the Macon family lived there. Due to financial difficulties, they couldn't pay the rent on time. The head of the family promised the homeowners that he would soon pay the debt, but instead, about a month ago, the family moved without warning, doing so at night. The police found them in the town of Redfern, at Wells Street 6. Senior Constable Joyce paid them a visit. At the time of the visit, 50-year-old John Macon, his 47-year-old wife Sarah, and their 3 children, 17-year-old Blanche, 14-year-old Florence, and 2-year-old Cecil, were in the house. During the conversation, the spouses told Joyce that they moved due to misunderstandings with the homeowners. They had no connection to the discovered infants. Constable decided to return to the Macons with a search warrant for the house's premises. But when he did, it turned out that the family had hastily changed their address. Joyce still inspected the area. His gaze fell on a small plot of land that had obviously been recently dug up. Joyce dug it up but found nothing. Later, he learned that on October 14th, in the same town, on the vacant lot of Zamia Street, the body of a newborn boy was found. It seemed that he had been recently buried there, but the body itself was heavily decomposed. This indicated that he had been reburied. Experts couldn't determine if the child was alive at the time of birth. Joyce speculated that the body of the boy may have originally been on the Macons' property at Wells Street, on that freshly dug-up plot. The Macon family raised many suspicions, which intensified after interviewing their neighbors. However, the police couldn't verbally accuse them of involvement in the discovered children's bodies. Therefore, the case was referred to the coroner's court, where neighbors, doctors who performed the autopsies, Constable Joyce, and the worker who found the 2 bodies in MacDonaldtown were questioned. The first hearing took place on October 26th. Some details about the Macon family were revealed. They lived in extreme poverty. Sarah was a housewife, taking care of the children, of whom there were 4 at the time of their stay in MacDonaldtown. However, it later turned out that there were a total of 10 children in the family. Many of them left the parental home before reaching adulthood. The 2 eldest children took custody of the younger ones. One of the daughters even ran away from her parents at the age of 16 and started working as a maid. When communicating with neighbors, Sarah claimed to have midwifery education and offered her services to pregnant women. Later, during questioning, she vehemently denied this fact. John didn't stay at any job for long. He constantly found himself in unpleasant situations, leading to dismissals, or he simply stopped showing up for shifts at his own will. In the last few years, John hadn't been working at all. He had been in an accident and was recovering from the injuries sustained. Neighbors noted that John constantly boasted about property in the town of Wollongong, inherited from his mother. He claimed to rent it out and earn £1 per week from it. Obviously, this was insufficient to support a large family, but he did nothing to improve the family's financial situation. 2 days later, the second hearing took place, where the Macon spouses were questioned. They were located in the town of Chippendale. Since neighbors saw that they had 4 children before moving to Redfern, the jurors were primarily interested in where one child had disappeared to. Perhaps it was buried in the backyard of the house at 25 Burren Street. Sarah explained that on the day after arriving in MacDonaldtown, which was the end of June 1892, she took care of a 2-week-old girl. The child's mother asked Sarah to look after her daughter for a few weeks, promising to pay 10 shillings a week for this service. In mid-August, the woman took the child back and left for Melbourne. This may seem strange, but at that time, such a practice was commonplace. Single mothers or parents who had to work extensively entrusted their children to wet nurses, paying them a specific amount of money every week. Often, children were given up for adoption, and a one-time payment was made. This activity was practically unregulated by government authorities, so it became a good source of income for many women. To earn more, women took in many children, but they couldn't provide them with proper care, so the infants often died. This practice came to be known as baby farming. It was this activity that the Macon spouses were suspected of. However, Sarah claimed that she took the child into temporary care only once and returned it to the mother. Her husband and daughters confirmed these words. The police doubted Sarah's truthfulness, so she was held in custody while John was released to be with the children. This investigation gained widespread attention, and soon a young woman named Minionette Davis, along with her partner Horace Bottomley, approached the police. Although not married, they had a daughter named Minionette born on June 10, 1892, whom they named after her mother. The couple realized they couldn't provide proper care for the child, and societal norms frowned upon extramarital children at the time. Therefore, Minionette and Horace decided to place the child in the care of a wet nurse. On June 21st, they placed an advertisement in the newspaper seeking a kind person willing to take temporary custody of their daughter. A man named Bert responded to the ad, but in reality it was John Macon. He claimed his family was willing to take care of the baby for a weekly fee of 10 shillings. He assured the parents that they could visit their daughter anytime. The couple agreed, and on the same day they handed over the child. 2 days later, Minionette and Horace went to the Macon family to visit their daughter and bring some baby clothes. There, they met Sarah, who seemed very kind and friendly. A week later, the Macon family moved to MacDonaldtown. John informed Minionette and Horace of their new address. Everything seemed fine. The couple visited their child every Saturday, leaving 10 shillings each time. During one visit, Minionette and Horace accidentally discovered that Sarah and John's real surname was Macon. They saw a card on the shelf with the inscription, Mrs. Sarah Macon, nurse and qualified midwife. Sarah admitted they had concealed their true surname from the couple, offering a vague explanation. Minionette and Horace paid little attention to it and left calmly. Their next visit was scheduled for the following Saturday, July 23rd. However, early that morning, John came to the house where Minionette worked as a maid and informed her that their daughter was sick, possibly just a cold. He would take her to the hospital on Monday. At the end of the conversation, John added that he would like to receive the weekly payment of 10 shillings. A few days later, Minionette and Horace received a telegram from John stating that the child had died. The next day, the couple went to the Macon family. John brought their daughter out of the room, dressed in a long white dress. Placing her on a bench, he said, "Perhaps it's for the best that she died." Minionette and Horace were shocked by this statement. They inquired about the cause of death, but John couldn't provide a precise answer. He assured them that he would consult a doctor for a report. He also mentioned that the coffin was already ordered and asked the couple to cover the funeral expenses, amounting to £2. After this, Horace and Minionette lost contact with the Macon family. They had hastily changed their address and did not disclose where their daughter was buried. Hearing this story, the police no longer doubted that Sarah and John had lied during questioning. To gather more evidence against the Macons, Senior Constable Joyce organized a police team to search the premises of all the houses where the family had lived in the last 4 years. For some reason, Joyce assumed that this was the time frame during which Sarah and John might have been involved in child farming. On November 2nd, The police team arrived in MacDonaldtown at the house number 25 on Burren Street, where the first two bodies were discovered. They began carefully excavating the area and horrifyingly found 5 more children's bodies. The examination managed to identify one of the children. It was the 2-month-old daughter of Horace and Minnie Annette. The next day, John and his 2 daughters were brought to the police station. Their youngest son, Cecil, was taken into custody by their neighbor. During the subsequent interview, John and Sarah insisted that they had no connection to the bodies found and continued to deny taking children into their care, except for the case mentioned in the initial questioning. When the police conducted a follow-up interview with the Macon sisters, they obtained new information. Blanche revealed that 3 infants had recently lived with them, whom her mother was supposed to look after. When asked why she had previously stated that only 1 child lived with them, Blanche replied that her parents had forced her to lie. John and Sarah were charged with involvement in the murder of children left in their care. The police continued searching the premises of the houses where the Macon family had lived. In Redfern at 109 George Street, the bodies of 4 infants were discovered. And at house number 11 on Alderson Street, 1 body was found. In Chippendale at 28 Levy Street, the police unearthed the remains of 2 more children. In total, 14 bodies were discovered. According to the police, the infant whose remains were found on the vacant lot on Zamia Street also fell victim to the hands of Sarah and John. During the investigation, the remains of 5 children were identified, and their parents voluntarily approached the police. They were mostly young girls who worked as maids. From their accounts, it became known that the Macon spouses never disclosed their real surname. Shortly after handing over the children, they would abruptly move and usually not inform anyone of their new address. John, however, diligently collected payment for his services. He would get very upset if someone faced unforeseen circumstances and couldn't pay the required amount on time. During the court proceedings, it was only possible to prove John and Sarah Macon's involvement in the deaths of 2 children, Minnie Annette Bottomley and Horace Murray. Experts noticed traces of blood around the heart area on their clothing. Upon careful examination, small punctures were found on the skin, possibly made by a needle. This could have been the cause of the children's deaths. In court, the youngest daughters of John and Sarah, 16-year-old Clarice and 11-year-old Daisy, testified against them. The girls revealed that in the last few years when they lived with their parents, there were always infants in the house whom Sarah took in for care. In 1892, during the move to MacDonaldtown, there were 6 adopted children in the family at the house on Burren Street, 25. The girls remembered how difficult that move was for them, as each family member had to carry an infant. After moving, 16-year-old Clarice ran away from home. 11-year-old Daisy was taken in by 20-year-old Minnie, Sarah's eldest daughter from her first marriage. Neighbors and acquaintances of the Macon family also served as witnesses in court. One of them was John's friend, Edward Jordan. According to him, John once confessed to him that he had disposed of 8 adopted children by poisoning them. Moreover, he boasted that no doctor could suspect him because he never resorted to chemicals but used common medications. When Sarah and John were given the floor, they, of course, denied everything. On March 23, 1893, the final court session took place, resulting in the ultimate verdict. John and Sarah were sentenced to death. However, after an appeal, Sarah's punishment was commuted to life imprisonment. John was executed on August 15th. Sarah spent 18.5 years in prison. Her daughters tirelessly sought clemency for their mother for many years. The main argument was her health issues. In 1911, Sarah was released, and they did it quietly to avoid public outrage. She spent the last 7 years of her life with her family. Sarah passed away on September 13, 1918, at the age of 72.